going to back up a little bit. I'm going to back up to Daf Chesam and Aleph, 5 lines in the bottom, because the next blot is going to be a long list of explanations of this machlokes in the Mishnah. In the Mishnah, Meir had said that a moitzi shemra, when you have to paskin to paskin the din of a moitzi shemra, meaning a husband who claimed his wife was mezana before they got married, and therefore she wasn't a psula. So he's saying, I don't have to, I can be moitzi her without a ksuba, and she's going to get killed if it's true. So there's a machlokes in the Mishnah. Remeir said you do it with a bezdin of 3. You need 3 dayanim. The Chacham say you need you need 23. Now clearly, there's no dispute that if someone's getting killed, any kind of misa, you have to have shloishim esrim shloishim. You have to have 23. So if the husband was claiming that she was mezana tachtov, but he has no edim, he's just saying, I claim that she was mezana, she wasn't a psula. We believe him legabi the mamnis. There's an anan sadi. He wouldn't have gone, as Luzi can tell you, it's a lot of trouble to make a chasana. It's a big pain in the neck, and it's a big expense. He wouldn't have done it just to then afterwards be megarish her, to send her away. It wouldn't have been worth it. So if he's saying that it's true, and he's willing to send away his newly married wife, we believe him that about as far as money is concerned. Obviously, he's not believed to get her killed because he's saying that she was mezana, but he is believed that she doesn't get the ksuba. So that's tomorrow. So the case over here that they're arguing about in the Mishnah, l'chayra must be talking about a case of mamanis, where he didn't have edim, so he's just the husband is just trying to avoid paying the ksuba. So what does the Chacham mean? So the Gemara understands what it must mean is, since there is, even though it's not going to be able to be applied because there are no edim, since there is a capital aspect to this case, because if what the husband was saying was true, she would be killed. Therefore, you need a bezdin of 23. So, what does it make that there's a potential of the nefashos? Obviously, we're talking about where there is no lamaisa din in the nefashos. Otherwise, Rameir certainly wouldn't argue. Amarullah. So the first teretz is the first of many terutzim of explaining. We're arguing about whether we want to cause a publicity to this case and thereby let the Eidim know, if there are any Eidim, they should come to the Bezdin and testify. So Rameir says there's no necessity. We don't have to use a Bezdin. We don't use the ploy of using a Bezdin of 23 to drum up interest in order to make it that Eidim will come. Rabbanan say no, even though there is no actual Misa here, no one's getting killed currently, but in order to possibly encourage any Eidim that there are, to let them know that this entire is going on, we use a Bezdin of 23 to be able to cause the publicity to go out. That's Ula's pshat. Rabba or Rabba Amar, Kuli Amal Alaz Lo Chashina. Rabba says no. That's not chashash. That's not the explanation for the Rabbanan in the Chacham in the Mishnah that say you need 23. There's a different reason. We're worried about the covet of the Bezdin. And what's the case? Where the husband said, I'm going to bring Eidim that my wife was mezana. So this is going to be a full-fledged capital case. The Ivdur. But it fell through. He wasn't able to bring them, and now there's no need anymore for that bezdin. But the husband says, listen, I wasn't able to get Eidim, but I still am entitled, like we said before. He's believed to avoid having to pay the ksuba just on his say-so. We believe him. So he says, listen, I have this, I'm in front of the bezdin. I know it's a bezdin of 23. That's not necessary, but let's already do the din mamas. So this is going to be the Shita of Rameya, who says you need Shloisha, says, okay, so you'll disband. There's no need for this Bezdin anymore. You disband this Bezdin, you get a new Bezdin of 3. And the Chachamim say, no, it's not a covet for the Bezdin to dismiss them and cause a new Bezdin to be impaneled. You just use the current Bezdin because it's not covet to send them away. That's Rabba's explanation. Meisvei, B'chamaim, Tavu Mam B'shloisha, Tavu Nefashas, B'esem B'shloisha. We have a brisa that sort of parallels our Mishnah, and it says the Chachamim say, if you're asking for mammon, then you only need a bezdin of 3. If you're requesting nefashis, if the husband is claiming that if we're talking about a case of nefashis, then it's 23. So bishlam ala Rabba, according to the second pshat in Rabba, we can explain this brisa. Tavu mammon tchila b'shloisha, tavu nefashis tchila afilu mammon b'esem b'shloisha. What it means to say is, if the husband came in and said, I just have 3, I don't have Eidim. So all he's asking for is mumminess. So you only need a bezdin of 3. But if he started off with shloisha, but he was saying, if he started off nefashas, and you needed 23, and then they weren't able to find the Eidim, you're still going to need 23, like Rabbah said, because of the covet of the bezdin. So you can have that sometimes it's with 3 and sometimes it's with 23. Ela Ula, but Ula who says it's kadei lahaitzi laz. How do you have, whenever you have a taina of maitzi shemra, we're always going to say use 23 in order to encourage the Aiden to come out. So what do you have the first part of tavu mammon b'shleisha? It's always going to be even if it's tavu mammon, it's going to be b'esrim b'shleisha. Amar Rava, so Rava says, Ani v'ariv shel chabura targimna. Me and the Arisha b'chabura, we explained this. Umanu, who is that? Rav Chia bar Ravin. Hachamay, and even according to Ula, you could explain how you could have a bezdin of 3. Shehevi Baal Edim Shezinsa. We're talking about originally the Baal did bring Edim that she was Mazana. Behevi Av Edim v'hizimum le'edei Baal. And then the Edim of the father brought Edim. The father was the one who has to pay up, and he was mezamim to the Edim of the Baal. Baal ligvus mammon mibal b'shloisha. If they're coming to take, meaning if there was only originally a taina of mammon, the Edim, let's say, we're going to see a lot of different cases. Let's say they didn't give hasra, or for whatever reason that Edis was not capable of putting her to death, but it was enough to cause him to not have to pay the ksuba, and then they were huzam. So now when we have this case of hazama, if it's not a case of nefashis, there's no need to have eser v'shleisha, because we're not trying to get extra edim to be mazam the hazama. We only have this thing that we want to get the edim to come in for her misa. We're talking about her misa, but those edim that were trying to cause her to be killed, or to cause her to lose her ksuba, those are already discredited. So legabi this hazama, there's no din of las. So that's where Ulu would say that you don't need esrim v'shleisha. The way yeah. Yeah. Zakduma. That's the conclusion of the explanation of Ula's pshat of Laz. So we have Rabbah and we have Ula. Now we're going to say a third pshat in the machlokes in the Mishnah between Rameh and the Chab. Abaye Amar, the Kuli Alma Chayshin Laz. Abaye says, the Rashi has like a more complex way of explaining it than I just said. But I think we're, in the interest of time, since we have a lot of explanations to go through, we're not going to go through the Rashi right now. Abaya Amar, the Kuli Amachai Shinin Laz. Abaya says everyone is talking about, everyone holds that with Chayish Laz. So really, every time you have an Edis of Mammon, meaning without, every time there's no Edis, and the husband is just claiming that she was a Mizana, you're going to need 23. And also, we do say Mishum Kvadim Rishonim. So even if he claimed that they were Edom, and then it turns out that they weren't, we're going to have 23 for the Edis of for the judgment on the Mammon, like Robinson. So then the question is, when do you ever have Rameir Shita that you only need 3? We're talking about where the Edom gave Hasra and they didn't clarify what the method of Misa is going to be. They told this woman that they told the woman, who are they, master? I have to let me see Rashi. Yeah. Yeah, so when they told this naira, right, this kala, if you're going to be bar on this man, you're going to get killed, but he didn't say what type of misa was going to be. V'hai tanahu, and this is the Tana, this is the Machlokes Tanoim, the Tanya. B'shar kol chai ve'im misa shebeTorah, and all other misas in the Torah, meaning other than a mesis. A mesis is more chamer on these things, but a non-mesis, a regular chayvim misas. Ein mem misanaisam, you don't kill them ella be'eda. It requires that there be a bezdin of 23. Be'edim, and it has to be edim. Ba'asra, and it has to be asra. Ba'achi yidiyu shu chayiv misa be'bezdin. Until you tell the person that you chayiv misa be'bezdin. That's the Tanakam. Rabbi Yehuda, ma'achi yidiyu be'eza misa hu ner. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, it's not enough just to say that you're going to be chayiv misa. You also have to say specifically which kind of misa. So that's a general mesa idea as an exception. But outside of that, there's more laxance because of the chaymer hadavar, because it's such a terrible thing to encourage other people to be ayved avodah zarah. So there's more lax rules. We have to stamp it out immediately. But the general rule is, according to the Tanakama, you have to give asra, telling the person you're going to get killed if you do this. Mechal Shabbos, or killing someone, or being Lizana. But then Rabbi Yehuda says, no, it's not enough even to say that. You have to, Hasra has to include exactly which Misa the person is going to get if they're over. So the question is over here, it's a case where the Hasra did not include that specific instruction of which Misa they're going to, whether they're going to get Skilo or Heret or Chanek or Sreifa. So according to Reb Meir, it's only going to be a bezdin of shloisha because there's no possibility of misa. The asra is an invalid asra, so it's going to be only mamas. Even though we're chayish laz, and even though we already have the edim, so now laz is not negayah, and we're not talking about where the edim were not found. We're talking about where the edim were found, but it's precluded from being misa. So therefore, according to Reb Meir, you only need 3 edim. The chachamim say no. They hold like the Tanakam over here. Actually, as long as since she did get the asra that she's going to get killed, that's enough to be mechayev on misa, and therefore you need a bezdin of 23. Yeah. Rapapa Amar, 4th teretz. We're talking about a woman who's very learned. She went to BJJ and she knows all the halachas very well. You know what BJJ is? It's the famous seminary in Eretz Yisrael. It's like the Harvard. It's like the Harvard of the Harvard for girls.
They never graduate.
Ah, that's right. They try to teach them to become teachers. Yeah. The Kamiflagi and the Machlokes is look the Rabbi Yisrael Bar Yehuda Rabban and the Tanya. Rabbi Yisrael Bar Yehuda Omer Chava Ein Tzarech Hasra. Rabbi Yisrael Bar Yehuda holds someone. And this is a very egalitarian Gemara. No difference between a man or a woman, as long as they're learned, they're considered to know what the halachas are, and therefore they don't need hasra, they don't need to be warned. The purpose of hasra, the purpose of hasra is only that a person shouldn't be able to say, I didn't know what the rules were. We don't want, a person could say, I'm an einus, I didn't know I'm not allowed to kill. I didn't know I'm not allowed to be Michal Shabbos. Didn't know I'm. So you give Asra, and then he takes away that ability to say that. You're looking very.
Well, I'll forget Shabbos when you're going to Shagi because what's called because you forgot that specific din is awesome.
Right. So that's the Gabi Chatas. Gabi, whether you have to bring Chatas.
So, but
over here,
between Mezid and Shagi, it's like a Shagi. You forget that a specific din is awesome.
You have to bring Chatas even if there's no Asra. The point of Asra is if someone says I didn't know it's Asr, so you could say no. We have Adam. The Adam told you don't do it, and you did it. So it's not a valid explanation to get you off from Misa, and that you just have to bring a Chatas.
But in the case of a chaver could say, okay, I forgot.
So that's it's part of being a chaver, is that you don't forget. You know, if someone's 90 years old and he forgot his learning, he's not going to be a chaver anymore. A chaver or a chavera is somebody who knows the rules. They're I don't know what the test is. They give exams. Listen, I would flub the exam on purpose just in case, I get caught doing something I shouldn't. But this is the machlekes, whether someone who is knowledgeable, according to basically who did the whole point of the hasra is just, well, it's really a little bit time of the Qur'an. The Torah says that you need hasra. That you can't say that I thought it was mutter, but according to that, so Reb Meir, who says you need 3, he says that no, even a chaver, if he says that I didn't know the rules, he doesn't have to say that. If he didn't get a hasra, the Torah said you need hasra. If he didn't get hasra, it's irrelevant what his personal circumstances are. But according to the Chacham in our Mishnah, who say we look at each person individually, and if he's a chaver, he's not going to be able to get off because he didn't get hasra. So even though the Adam that she was zinsa, this was a isha who was a chavera, even though she was a chavera, she's gonna be subject to the misa, and therefore you need a bezin of 23. Rav Ashi Amar could go into asrubei malchus v'li asrubei ktala, where she got a hasra for malchus and not for misa. But kamifali repulked to Rabbi Shmuel Rabbana. The Tanan malchus b'shleisha. Mishum Rabbi Shmuel Amru b'esrim b'shleisha. The question is what the din of malchus is. How many Adam do you need? I mean, how many dayanim do you need to impose malchus? The din, like we were just saying, if someone has there are 3 levels. If someone's a shaygig on a lav, on let's say on a chiv misa, let's say being the chal Shabbos, if he does it b'shaygig, he brings a chatas. If he does it b'mezid with hasra, with a warning, then he gets misa. But if there's Adam who says he did it on purpose, but they didn't give him asra, then he's going to get malchus. They didn't tell him that he could get killed. They just told him, it's also to do. So he knows he's not allowed to do it, and he did it anyway. So he's still chayiv a lav. A lav is subsumed within a chiv misa. We always think of it as separate things. There's chayiv a lavin that you get malchus for, and chayiv a misa that you get misa for, that you get killed for. But it's not really true. A lav just means that the Torah tells you not to do it. So this woman was told, if you're not allowed, the Torah says you're not allowed to be mezana, but they didn't say you're going to get killed. So we said before, everyone agrees she has to get hasra, that she's going to get misa. That the Torah requires. But then she didn't get it. But she still left that she was over on the law, that you're not allowed to be mezana. She's going to get malchus. And now the machlekes in our Mishnah is going to be whether a chiv malchus needs a bezin of 3 or a bezin of 23. which the Gemara is going to explain a little bit later on why you would need a bezin of 23 for Malchus. Ravina Amar, another teretz. I forgot where we're up to already. Ravina Amar Kagain Shenimtza Echad Min Eidim Karav Apostle. We're talking about one of the Eidim was found to be a Karav or apostle. So you had 3 Eidim to start with, and one turned out to be apostle. So you still have 2 kosher Eidim and 1 apostle Eid. But Kamifli put to the Rabbi Yosef. This is going to be totally in the Machlekes Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi. Aliba de Rabbi Akiva and how they explain Rabbi Akiva. That's not. Well, what's the explanation of Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi the guy about the sheet of Rabbi Akiva? Rabbi Akiva, I know. Rabbi Akiva said, "Loi bosh lishi el lahachmelav lasadina kiyotzebeil." When the Torah says, "Apishnayim edim or shloisha edim yumas hameis," it's a little strange. The Torah says it's on 2 or 3 edim. Why is the Torah saying or 3 edim? Right? We need 2 edim. Why is the Torah saying 2 or 3? So Rabbi Akiva says, first of all, it's coming to tell you to be machmer that even if there are 3 edim and you get the edim al chuzam, they said this issue was born someone, and then other edim come. Reuven, Shimon, and Levi said this issue was born on a man when she was married, and then Yisachar and Zvulun come and say that Reuven, Shimon, and Levi were all in Chicago at the time that they said. So Levi says, listen, so now the din is that you have to do kasha zamam, whatever they were trying to do with their edus, that's what gets imposed on them. But Levi says, I wasn't even necessary. How can you make me be chayiv as a edim zaymim? So he says that's what the Torah is telling you. That even the third aid is going to have a din of edim zaymim. And we're talking about, let's say, the third one, right? They said one after the others. He says, I'm the third one. I wasn't really necessary. I shouldn't be mechayiv misa when I'm Muslim. So that's what Rabbi Akiva says. The pasuk is coming to tell you. And the Gemara points out, the Brisa points out, or the Mishnah points out, we're punishing someone who's not really necessary, who's extraneous to the din. He gets treated the same as the ones who actually are needed to cause the woman to be killed. And this third aid is still going to get punished the same as them. Certainly someone who sees, people are carrying a mace, they're being Isaac in Kfura, mitzvah Kfura, and they're holding the coffin, and he just puts his hand on it, it was already being carried. Certainly that person is going to get a mitzvah the same as the people who are necessary to the mitzvah, because the koyach of mitzvah is always stronger than Avera. So teaching you a hashkafadika point that you should keep in mind. You should never think that your mitzvah is not important. Because if the Rebbeinu Shalom punishes someone who's not necessary, with Avera is not important, certainly he'll reward someone whose mitzvah is not important or is not necessary. Now, to continue, and another din that Rabbi Akiva, so this is all not really relevant to our issue. Another din that Rabbi Akiva deduces from the pasuk, Al Pishnayim Edem Shloisha Edem, Umashnayim Nimsa Echad Mehem Karav Pasal Edusam Betel. Just like if there were only 2 Edem, if one of them turns out to be pasal, the entire edus is batal. So too, if you have 3, if one of them is found to be a karav apostle, the entire edus is batal. And how do we know that holds true? Even if you have 100 edim, that all 100 of them are going to be batal if one is found to be a apostle. Because the Torah says, "Apishnayim edim oishloisha edim." What did the Torah have to say? It could say, "Apishnayim oishloisha edim." So not only did it say extra the shloisha, it also said the word edim extra when it said "Apishnayim edim oishloisha edim." So what's the extra word edim to tell you? No matter how many there are, we can learn out the second in that if one of them is puzzled, the entire edus is batal. Amr Rabbi Yosi says, "B'medvar mamurim b'dinin nefashos." This is only true in dinin nefashos. Ava b'dinin mamis tatayim edus b'shar. Legabi dinin mamnis, you can be mekayim the edus even if one of them is found to be puzzled, the rest of them are going to be kosher. And the Rashi explains, b'dinin nefashos about 5 lines up in the narrow lines. That we try to, whenever we have a capital case, as we're going to see at the end, all the way at the end of Makkos, famous Gemara that a bezin that kills more than once in 70 years is considered a hanging court. You're supposed to try as much as possible, and it comes from a pasuk. You have to try as much as possible to downgrade a misa case. So therefore, we apply that over here. This din that the Torah says that we pasel a edus, if one of them is karav pasel, that's only by din and nefashos. But by din and mamanis, even if one is found to be pasel, it's still going to be a kosher edus. This din only applies to nefashos. But Rabbi Yossi says, but by a din and mamanis, it will always be the case. I'm sorry, by din and nefashos, if one is pasel, it's always going to pasel. Rabbi Aimer, echad din and mamanis v'echad din and nefashos. Rabbi says this, that Rabbi Kiva said that if Nimsa Achim Karei Pasel is not just by Dinei Nefashos, it's even by Dinei Mamnis. However, Rabbi says a qualification that Rabbi Yossi did not say, that's only where this aid what gave the Hasra. But if the aid did not give a Hasra, he wasn't an active aid. He was just standing. He was a passive bystander, this Karavai Apostle. And he happened to be there while this woman was being mezana, and he didn't say anything. He didn't give a hasra. He said, Rabbi Yossi says that's going to be excluded. I'm sorry, Rabbi Omer. This is Rabbi. Rabbi says in that case that aid is not going to passel, even if he's a Karavai Apostle, because otherwise you have a big problem. If you're gonna, let's say you're gonna have a person who's killing in a huge mob, right? He goes in Times Square and he kills someone, and they take him away. The police take him away, and so let's get everyone. There were 5,000 people in Times Square, and it's gonna come out, and if any one of those people was said lashon hara, and it could be documented that he said lashon hara, and therefore he's a Rasha. He's b'chayiv. He's not going to be able to be a kosher aid. It's going to passel the whole edus. So Rebbe says, therefore, it must be. I don't know if lashon hara makes you a passel, but one of them gambled. One of them went to the Bahamas and he passed through the casino and he gambled a little bit, so he becomes a passel edus. Any one of those people passels the whole edus. So it must be there has to be some way of being mechalik between an active aid and a passive aid. So it's the only people who are going to passel the whole edus are Eidim that were that were masra, that gave hasra, that warned the parties. But someone who's watching, it can't be that they're going to pass all the Eidim. So now we finally are getting back to our chiluk. So our case in our Mishnah, it's talking about where there was a Karavai apostle who did not give hasra. So according to Rebbe, that aid is not going to passel the aid, so therefore it's going to remain a non-misa case, and you're only going to need 3 days on him. But according to the first man Amar over here, Rabbi Yossi, he wasn't mechalik in dinei nefashos. He just said dinei nefashos nimsa achad mehem karavei pasel. He did not seem to disagree with Rebbe, who says that it has to be only an aid who's masra. So he would say you still need 23. He's going to say you still need. No, he's going to say you don't need 23. It's the other way around. I'm sorry. According to Rebbe, you're going to need 23 dayanim, because this aid who did not give hasra is not going to passel the rest of them, so it's still going to remain a misa case. Mashenkin Rabbi Yossi, the first one who says dinei nefashos, any aid is always going to passel. It means even if he wasn't masra, he's still going to be included as part of the edus, and he's going to bust the edus. And therefore, you're going to be left with only an edus of mamonis, and therefore you're only going to need shleish. Another possible teretz for this question: we're talking about other people who gave the hasra, not the edim. They're arguing about the machlokes Rabbi Yossi and Rabbanan. The Tanan Rabbi Yossi, I'm the oilam ein neragash you pish shnei edav maser, but until the edim themselves are the ones who give the hasra. And then al pishnayim edim. The Torah says al pi, through the mouth. So it's not just that they're watching through their eyes, but they also have to be saying, they have to be the ones to give Hasra. So according to Rabbi Yossi, we're talking about a case where someone else gave the Hasra. According to Rabbi Yossi, it's going to be, you're only going to need 3 dayanim because it's not going to be any misa since they didn't give the Hasra. According to the Chachamim, they disagree with Rabbi Yossi. The Chacham hold like the Rabbanan that this is not necessary. You know, it doesn't make a difference who gives the Asra, it's still going to be a Misa. There are 2 types, when you have a Dine Nefashis, you have to interrogate the Edom, and there are 2 types of interrogations. First, you ask them, where did this happen, and who did this happen with, and when did it happen? Because if you don't have those facts, it's not possible to be mazim them. And the Edom that don't have the potential to be huzam are not kosher Edom. So first you ask them, when did it happen, where did it happen, so that if they're found to be in a different place, they're going to be Edom Zayim. And then you ask them extraneous questions to determine whether they're lying or not. They say, you ask them what color, what was the clothing it was in, was it blue, was it green? And you take them and you take the Edom in different rooms, and if they don't match up, then you dismiss them as false Edom. So we're talking about where they were tripped up on the second set of questions, the extraneous questions. He asked them about there were figs hanging nearby, and he asked them what did those dates or the figs look like, and they disagreed about what the figs look like. So on that, the question is something that's so extraneous, is that enough to passel the Edom? So Ben Zakkai says that even such an extraneous thing is enough to passel the Edom, and that's what happened over here. They asked him about things that were totally not relevant to the znus or to the murder, whatever the case may be. So according to the Chachamim, according to Reb Meir, who holds like Ben Zakkai, these are no longer kosher Edom, so therefore it remains just a mamandika thing. So therefore you only need three dayanim. And the other mandamar, the Chachamim hold like the Cholkim on Ben Zakkai, that it has to be something relevant to the murder. That means, or to the Isser. So if you ask like what I imagine something like what kind of knife was he holding? So that would be considered to be a chakira that would be a bedika that would be enough to passel him. Okay, so that's the conclusion. That's the end of all the different chakiras, all the different terutzim on this question of the last explanation of why, according to the Chachamim, we have 23 dayanim, even though l'chayr we're not talking about a case of misa. We're talking about where there really is a case of misa, but most of these terutzim are, the first 2 terutzim are, even though it's totally not a case of misa, there's different reasons, either mishum kavod or because of laws that we use 23. And the last bunch of terutzim are all that really it is a case of misa, but it's a machlokes where the Edom might have been passeled for one reason or the other. Something to do with the Asra, something to do with the circumstances that passel the Edom, and it remains a machlokes with the kosher Edom. Amar Rav Yosef, new topic about Edom. Hevi abal Edom shezinsa, vehevi ha'av Edom behizimum le'edei habal. If the Baal brought Edom that she was mezana, and then the father brought Edom, and they were mazim. They said these Edom that the Baal had brought that she was mezana, they were with us in Chicago, and therefore they're posel Edom. Edei habal nerogin. The Edei habal, they were trying to get this woman killed, so they have kasha zamam, and they themselves get killed. Ve'ein mishalmin mammon, but they don't pay. They don't pay for the fact that they had tried to get this woman to lose her ksuba, because it's kimlei b'derabimine. The Edom were at the same time that they were trying to get this woman killed, they were also trying to make her lose her mammon. So it's 2 things at the same time. So you only get the worst one. What happens if now he pulls the reverse? The Baal comes and is mazim these Edom of the Av that were mazim the original Edom of the Baal. The Eidei Av that were now Huzam, they're going to get killed, and they're also going to have to pay Mammon. Mammon Lezeh, Nefashos Lezeh. Because they were trying to get different people to pay Mammon, then they were trying to get killed. They were trying to get the Eidei Ha'av were trying to get these Eidim to be killed, right? And they were also Eidei Ha'av trying to get the husband to pay the ksuba. So it's two separate people. So their second
not the
Eidim,
ksuba, the 100 shekel.
I'm sorry, the 100, not the, right, the $100 of Mitzvah Shemra. Okay, we're going to stop over here because the next thing is Palgin in the Bura, which needs a little bit of attention.
All right. Thank you. Have a great Shabbos.
Have a great Shabbos and Bez Shem Matzah Shabbos. Does anyone have parties?
I'm
You available?
Yeah,
We'll try
I'm
to do-
available. I'm available.
Yeah, I'm going to have a big crowd by me, but hopefully we'll learn for at least 20, 25 minutes right after Shabbos.
Amazing. All right. Thank you.
Okay, take care. Have a good Shabbos.
Biden was running this.